Let's go over to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm
Why,
not
yes, we
sure
should.
how many cities do you know have grown like Nashville has? It's absolutely insane. I went through there last year and I about lost my mind, Darren.
Yeah, it's just I was talking to JT Jazzy Shelf actually last week, and with his job, he does a lot of travel in and out of Nashville, and he said it's crazy. It still catches his attention sometimes when he's driving through downtown. Just even over the last 5-10 years, how dramatically it's not even the same city it was 5 or 10 years ago. It's just incredible the amount of growth that's taking place there.
And every time I drive through a city like that, I'm reminded just how slow paced life is in Louisiana.
That's exactly right.
Because it's like, what are you people doing? Why are you driving so fast? And you're honking your horns and you're yelling and you're using
Exactly.
sign language and all that stuff. And we don't do that here. Nobody ever honks their
Exactly.
horns here. Well, we're in Nashville because we're talking about your Vanderbilt Commodores, Darren,
I
coached
like it.
by Clark Lee in his third season with a record of 7-17 overall.
Mhm.
Not needs
No.
improvement. A
Yes, definitely.
2022 record of 5-7 overall, 2-6 in the SEC. Offensive
Mhm.
coordinator Joey Lynch. When I look at their offense, I know you got quarterbacks like AJ Swan, only 6 interceptions. So that's the fewest in the SEC last year. But that offensive line, Darren, this is something to really be proud of. They gave up a little over 1 sack a game, which put them at
Yep.
fourth in the SEC. So a
Mhm.
strong point for Vanderbilt.
Very much so. And not only is it a strong did they have a strong performance last year, but the largest majority of those starters, as a matter of fact, they have 7 guys back that have starts in their past. So that is a huge point of emphasis. People are very excited about AJ Swan. This is not typically, as a Vanderbilt fan, the kind of quarterback talent that you see step on the field for Vanderbilt. This guy, let's see, make sure I'm going the right way here. This guy right here, there's been some comparisons. People are as excited about him, about AJ Swan, as they were about Jay Cutler, and making some comparisons to him. It's been a long time since people were this excited about a quarterback. The last time people in Nashville were this excited about a quarterback, Luke Bryan was singing "Shake It for Me" to his Baby Rattler. Come on, that's a good one, right? I was
Oh,
proud of that. It's been that long since they were excited about a quarterback, but they are very excited about AJ
that's
Swan.
just wrong.
Uh,
That's just wrong.
the only offensive concerns is the tight end room and the running back room. You lose 1,000-yard rusher, that's an issue. Not a clue who's going to be next. And the tight end room, Cole Spence had a season-ending injury before they even got out of the spring, and he was the one they were looking at, and so that's just that's a jumbled mess in the tight end room. Thankfully, the other thing that people are very, very excited about is the wide receiver room. So even if they can't do what they've done in the past with a tight end, a dependable tight end, they have wide receivers. They have, and other schools have this a lot, but they have had 2 different guys show on their GPS 20 plus miles per hour, full pads in practice. That's not something Vanderbilt sees a whole lot, that kind of speed, especially out of the wide receiver room. So they are very, very excited about that as well.
On the defensive side of the ball, Nick Howell returns as the defensive coordinator, where the Commodores led the SEC in defensive touchdowns last year. Pretty impressive. And then they've got some good safeties, DeRicky Wright, C.J. Taylor, and how do you think they're going to be on the defensive side of the ball this year? Step up, lead the SEC in defensive touchdowns again?
Possibility because of the defensive line, that front 7, or front, I guess for them would be more along the lines of like a front 6. But so that I think there's definitely a possibility for that. For them, the defense, the backfield of the defense is the biggest concern. What is corner and what is safety going to look like? They specifically have really struggled in giving up the boundary in on the defensive side, leaving that open, not being able to cover it, a slot receiver coming out and getting to the boundary and being faster than whoever was covering them. That's a enormous weakness that they have to um, figure out how to keep that from happening again. If they can figure that out, that'll help a lot. The defense is, I think, more of a concern than the offense is, kind of the opposite of what we were talking about with South Carolina. I think those two things are flipped. I think people are very excited about the offense at Vanderbilt and a little bit afraid of just exactly what this is going to look like, hoping that this being the second year in Nick Howell's system, that will show some dividends and show some improvement, but still the side of the side of the ball that people are a little bit more afraid of or concerned about.
Well, they are expecting big things. They are doing a massive renovation of the stadium, which when you see a school putting money into their football program, that means they believe they have a bright future ahead of them. So
They
let's look at
expect
their
good
schedule.
things.
And they start off as the only SEC team to play in week 0. We've got games Saturday,
Yes,
Darren,
we've got
and
games.
Hawaii is coming to Nashville.
Yes, and this is a game that they should win. There's just no other way to say it. Hawaii was awful last year. They've had a horrible the off season coming into last year. They lost like 40 players off their roster to the transfer portal. They should show some improvement, but then they also have the burden of travel, and that's a long travel. So when you look at these two teams, I think last year the final score ended up being in the 60s for Vanderbilt. I don't know that would be the case, even though I think the offense has improved. I think you have to give Hawaii some credit. I think the opening line for this is 17.5. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was, again, a 3-score game. But this should be a SEC Week 0 win for Vanderbilt.
For the second straight year, it appears, if this pans out, that Vanderbilt will be the top seeded. They'll be first place in the SEC.
I'm very excited, but we will definitely talk about that we were for the second year in a row started the season off number 1 in the conference. Just saying, we've got to talk about that when it happens.
Well, after their matchup with Hawaii, they have Alabama A&M coming to Nashville. Then they travel to Wake Forest. They travel to UNLV. Boy, that's a long trip.
Yes.
They've got Kentucky and Missouri at home. They go to Florida, have Georgia at home. They go to Ole Miss. They have Auburn at home. And then they finish on the road, 2 straight road games at South Carolina and at Tennessee. So I'm looking at Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn, South Carolina, Tennessee. I mean, even go up to Florida. That's not a very kind schedule.
No. And the Coach Lee, all of his conversation this offseason has been getting to postseason play. The only way that happens is they cannot drop one of those first 4 games. They have to head into the Kentucky game 4-0, because then at that point you at least are giving yourself a shot. The Kentucky game is very scary to me. I think Kentucky may really turn some heads this year. So don't know. Being in Nashville helps, but when you look at Missouri, Florida, South Carolina, those 3, I think they have to grab 2 of those 3 games to truly make it a postseason possibility, because that final stretch, even though Auburn is there, you do have to travel to Auburn. Final stretch of Ole Miss, Auburn, South Carolina, Tennessee, and that's tough. I would prefer them go ahead and knock off Missouri and Florida back to back and get those 6 wins. And then if you sneak up on somebody else, that's fine, because those 4 games, that's a tough way to end a season.
It is. It's SEC football.
Yep, absolutely.